Good afternoon here from London. We are in front of the Queen Elizabeth II Center where the Reuters Trust Conference 2022 is ongoing. It is a conference on media freedom and human rights, and Philippines has been highlighted very largely throughout the day. In the conference, in the auditorium, a video of Nobel laureate and Rappler CEO Maria Ressa is played everywhere. And earlier, there was a panel that was participated by John Yagin Su. He's the deputy chair of the high level of panel of legal experts on media freedom. And he cited some things that could apply to the Philippines. First of all, he said that there's a global trend of states using phone ownership laws, foreign agents laws, and tax laws to really target independent media for the simple reason that these areas are quite complex. And the aim really is to obfuscate or confuse and raise suspicion and cast doubt on the integrity of these independent media outfits that are critical of the regime which they are in. There's also, he said, a global trend of passing a vague law during the pandemic. On the surface, the purpose is to crack down on fake news against the vaccine and the pandemic, but that it is also used as a pretext for something more. And we saw that when the government of former President Rodrigo Duterte passed the feared anti-terror law, of course, that has already passed the constitutionality test preliminarily at the Philippine Supreme Court. And as a last remark, John Yaginsu said that there's also a global trend of targeting lawyers who help journalists who are on the receiving end of legal attacks. And all of those three things are really applicable to the Philippines and not just to Rappler. We've also seen CBN and Inquirer targeted under the pretense of tax supposed sessions and ownership laws. There's also in that panel was UN Special Rapporteur on the freedom of expression, Irene Khan, who said there's also a trend of targeting women journalists for the purpose of wearing them out and causing mental distress to the point that these journalists do not pursue their stories anymore. And we've been on the receiving end of that. Beside me at the conference earlier was Regine Cabato, the Philippine correspondent of Washington Post. And when Irene Khan said that, we just both looked at each other and said, this is also a Philippine case study. And of course, aside from gendered attacks and sexualized attacks, it's meant to wear out women journalists. There's also red tagging. The recent example of that being the editor of Bulatlat, Len Olea, who has been severely red tagged, and Bulatlat also blocked from the internet by the National Telecommunications Commission. Irene Khan also said that 9 out of 10 of cases of journalists killing around the world are not investigated. That's also a Philippine problem. There's also a Philippine problem of denialism that these journalists who died in the line of duty. We have government officials saying that they died under personal circumstances. So we have really become a case study for the world. And I interviewed Irene Khan, the UN Special Rapporteur on the right to freedom of expression. And we're going to play that interview for you now.
Sad that in the Philippines, we have on the one hand a Nobel Peace Laureate who has Maria Ressa and Rappler that have shown the value that independent media bring in democratic countries. And at the same time, we've also seen some of the worst examples of attacks on journalists, including Maria herself. So it's a sad situation, and we see attacks under all kinds of laws, whether it's, and sometimes under the guise of income tax laws or foreign agent laws, sometimes directly attacks, online attacks against women journalists, which of course undermines freedom of expression and media freedom, which is an essential pillar of democracy. And it's very sad to see this sort of denigration of media in the Philippines.
What are your prospects under our new president?
Well, I don't want to prejudge the administration. It's been in place for a few months. But what I would hope to see are big changes. big reforms in policies. You have a constitutional protection that is not being exercised properly. The government is a party to international conventions which uphold the right of free independent media, which uphold freedom of expression, and I would like to see the government take action to live up to those obligations.
The keynote speaker this morning was Dmitry Muratov, the 2021 Nobel Peace Prize winner, alongside Maria Ressa, and editor-in-chief of Novaya Gazeta, which just recently closed down because of a warning for supposedly violating a foreign agent law. Novaya Gazeta has been an important independent newspaper in Russia, not just today, but all throughout the decades, and their courageous reporting on Russia's invasion of Ukraine was the latest to attract attacks against them. Dmitry couldn't be in London for the Trust conference because of safety reasons. He says many journalists, many independent news organizations in Russia has either closed down, have fled, or have been declared enemies of state. So he has called for an international fund to support exiled journalists. We are also going to play a bit of that speech from Dmitry Muratov.
6 иностранных СМИ ушло из России. Всего заблокировано почти 300 СМИ, 269, уже сейчас, наверное, больше. Признано журналистами, иноагентами, то есть врагами народа, 76 человек. Дальше цифра страшная. 138 тысяч сайтов без суда и следствия заблокировано Генеральной прокуратурой. Журналисты, независимых от государства медиа, стали изгнанниками. Они выдавлены из России. Кто-то признан иноагентом, чье-то медиа закрыли, кто-то признан экстремистом, а кто-то, как, например, замечательный расследовательский стартап «Важные истории», нежелательной организации. И в полном составе редакция вынуждена была уехать. Если вы меня спросите, если бы я был там рядом с вами, и в чем тогда безопасность журналистики, если она закончилась? Я вам хочу сказать, она в том, чтобы тем журналистам, которые оказались в изгнании, было бы очень правильно создать серьезный международный фонд с полностью прозрачными правилами для того, чтобы поддерживать проекты журналистов в изгнании, документальное кино, исследование больших данных, расследования, специальные репортажи. Давайте поможем тем коллегам, которые, несмотря ни на что, продолжают свою работу. И пусть помилуют нас дедлайн.
That was a powerful line again from Dmitry Muratov, and let's just let that simmer. May our deadlines have mercy on us. We were gathered here today, journalists and human rights advocates all over the world, to fight for the freedom to report truthfully without being targeted, without being attacked, harassed, or even pressured. And for the right, as to borrow Dmitry Muratov's line once again, for the freedom for journalists to die old. Here from Westminster, Lian Rappler, London.